I started work at the archive in the autumn of 2021. And I think it was just a week or two after I had started, and I had not even taken the directorship yet, that I got an email from an assistant who knew me from previous work on the parity talks. And her message was, can you please tell me from your estates, from the archives at GTA, how many women have you got? And I went to the website and I counted by hand. And we have just over 300 individual archives of individual architects. And at that time, in October 21, I came to a number of about 10 archives of women, 5 of whom were together with the archives of their husbands. So, a shocking number. Since then, we have written our collections policy or rewritten our collections policy in a way that explicitly prioritizes and renders us proactive in acquiring women's archives. And also we are aided by the fact that there are more women architects, and they are also much more inclined to leave their archives to us. I would find, for example, the case of Beate Schnitter. We have a few photographs of her here, who gave her archive back to clients when she closed her office in the 90s. She just drove with a niece and just handed the projects to the clients that she had worked for. So there is a Beate Schnitter archive that finally came to us last year, but it's much diminished. So there is an example of somebody who was extremely active in Zurich, a wonderful architect, a feminist, an activist, and at the same time she felt that her work will never be worthy of being in the GTA archives. So it's in a way an illustration of a mentality that hopefully is not disappearing. And already our numbers have increased slightly, and now we have 15 archives, but still it's a very small percentage. Archival work is very much detective work. So very often you will not find materials that directly answer your question. And then you have to enter a process of triangulation with not only the primary sources in the archive, but secondary sources, books, talking to people, oral histories or records of oral histories that will contribute to the generation of a body of knowledge that is otherwise missing in the archive. I think it's very important to acknowledge that the writing of history always involves evidence that is incomplete. It's by definition fragmentary. And I say by definition because we are situated into a different historical time than the subject of our research. So there has to be an element of speculation, of storytelling, if you will. I don't think any historian can start writing a history with the aim of producing the truth. I was told by Alan Colquhoun many years ago there's no such thing as the truth. And of course the truth always comes in plurals because the facts reflect differently on different people in different circumstances. And not least, the historian herself is situated in her own historical time, and her judgment is shaped by her own historical values. I am working now on an exhibition that celebrates a very important event at ETH that took place 50 years ago, the exhibition Tendenzen neuer Architektur im Tessin. This was an exhibition organized by the GTA exhibitions program and curated by Martin Steinmann, together with Thomas Boga. It was an important exhibition because it brought to the northern Swiss German-speaking audiences for the first time the work that had been produced quietly and locally in the 60s and the early 70s by a group of young Ticino architects, or rather a younger generation of Ticino architects, including Flora Ruchat-Roncati. But the exhibition featured 21 or 22 architects, and she's the only woman architect in it. I like how she stands out in the appendix, where all the architects have written their biography and list of works. And all the other participants provide this kind of bullet point CV with, you know, this year, study there, born there, whatever. And she instead gives a text, and it's a written text, and it's a beautiful written text, in which she says that she was the first female baby to be born in the maternity after it had been refurbished, and her photograph, 1 meter square, was hanging in this maternity hospital for many years after her birth. So from the very beginning, she was used to being the first in a series of. But it's again so specific of her special take on things, of her curiosity and humor, that instead of providing a dry list of facts, she introduces us to an intimate fact of her biography. And this is why I like so much writing women's histories, because they always surprise in this way. There are always these kind of twists, and it's very easy to reformulate these histories as subversions of established narratives. Anyway, we are now working on the exhibition, looking at this older exhibition and its impact that it has had. And I had to apply for funding to a research funding program that was revised in the last few years to very explicitly prioritize diversity and inclusivity as a criteria for the selection of the projects. And my proposal was rejected, sadly, because the decision was communicated to me in writing. The history I was covering was a ratio of 20 men to 1 woman. And it was seen that even my attempts at correcting, like creating a panel discussion with women architects of Ticino to address this lack, the fact that 50 years ago there was only one that got this coverage, that was also pointed out and signaled as being a token gesture. So it's not something that you can really address in a structural way. For me now to organize an exhibition that would get this funding would just mean to change the topic of my exhibition and to address a topic that, to put it roughly, has enough women in it.